Oh my god, chat, did we do it? Did I figure it out, finally? Chat? Chat, did I do it? Holy shit. Did it actually happen? Are we here? Hello, everybody. Let me go ahead and get this link. Let me go over to Instagram and make a post. Work stream. Do a link. There we go. Done. YouTube.com. Chat, how's everybody doing? Hell yeah. Hell yeah, chat. What's going on? Alright, we're here. We did it. We made it. I've got chat working. Things are happening. We got some Hollow Knight music. But you know, might need something a little more upbeat. You know what? You know what? I know we listened to it last night, but I'm kind of wanting it again. Do, do, do. What's up, Brennan Murphy? Hey, Artie. I'm here. I'm alive. Kinda. If you can call it that. Okay. This fucking painting. What do I want to work on today? That's the question. I should probably finish the frame. Yeah, probably. As always, if music's too loud or if anything's off or weird, let me know. I'm still new to the YouTube streaming. I don't know why the first two broadcasts didn't let me use chat. That was very weird. Something about that Undertale soundtrack is just... it's just cozy. It just feels like an old friend, you know? Talk about a little what this piece is for, context. This is a piece for Meat Bun that's going to be a t-shirt and a poster. I did a bunch of sketches before we decided on the triptych we were going to do, which I still have to do the third piece. This was one of the extra sketches that didn't initially get picked, but the more I worked on the other two, the more we liked it, so I decided to finish it in my free time. gonna license it out to them to use, and then I'll probably do some prints of it whenever I finish the run with them in the summer. I'll probably sell a few copies, do some gold stamping on it. Yeah, this was just a composition that I liked a lot. Rykard was my favorite boss design in the game, so I just wanted to do something. This is also a test run for a piece I've been wanting to do for like years, which I'm not going to spoil. It's a huge piece, but it's an extremely complicated composition, and there's 4 of them. So I wanted to see if I could pull off the level of detail I want to go for and still have it be cohesive and like understandable. So this is like a little test run for that, which so far I'm happy with it. So I'll probably jump into doing those right after I wrap up my Elden Ring work, which should be in the summer. Coffee and water. This is what you call a second party job. There's like, first party is you work for the company directly, like I'd be working for From Software. Second party is a company that works with companies. And then third, would be just an independent company that acquires a license or something. So Meatbun's cool because they interface with lots of different companies. And it's nice to get stuff in front of people who actually make the games and like have them approve on it and sign off on things. It's pretty cool. But I have a huge amount of work coming up, which I should be able to stream about half of it. So if I can get used to streaming on YouTube and used to talking while working again, I'll probably be here more often working on some of that. Doing a bunch of pieces for, I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about it, a popular game that came out last year. And probably starting those end of this month. And then I have one more big, huge Elden Ring crazy piece I have to do, which I sketched out. The composition's done, but then I have to render. You can see my rendering takes a while. So I got to render the whole thing out now, which will take a while. So I'm not sure if I'm allowed to show that one, though. There's certain things they are okay with me spoiling and other things they want to do drops for. So I don't know if that Elden Ring piece will be on here. But, yeah. If you saw the first two, the Grace and the Sorcery, then you probably have an idea of what the third one's going to be if you played the game. But, yeah. It'd be nice to have it mostly done by the time the DLC comes out. But with all the other stuff I have going on, that might not be... Yeah, we'll see. I might be able to do it. It'd be nice to get faster, so I gotta start doing studies again. Because, god damn, am I slow. Hey, Olive Roar. Thank you. That means a lot. I appreciate you. I might have to pull up some reference for this. These snake statues have very particular wings that aren't... They don't follow the rules of, like, what you would think a bird wing is. They're, like, very unique and kind of chunky. In the game. Hey, Riley. Thank you. Trying to get this frame done so I can move on and finish the center. Do these chains and cages and things. All the boring shit. I'm trying to get all the boring shit out of the way. I think I can have pretty much everything except the center done this week. And then I'll probably take a week and hammer out the details on Rykard and go from there. It should be pretty close to done. If not, totally done. Hey, Rafa. Yeah, it's for Elden Ring. It's gonna be a t-shirt and a poster. I'm very excited for what this is a test run for, but you'll all see that in the future. I'm going to be reusing this composition on a big piece that I've been wanting to do for a very long time, but I've been putting it off because it's something I want to do right. And I wasn't super happy with the results of my work. I'm still not, but I'm getting to a point where I don't hate it as much. Like, when this is done, it's going to look okay to me instead of like me never wanting to see it again. Like, instead of chasing the realism illustration thing that I was for a while, and it felt like slamming my head against a wall trying to be other people, I'm kind of going back to just like rendered graphic design stuff, and I'm having a lot more fun. So yeah, I don't know. It's a weird tightrope. My Elden Ring stuff I've been doing for Meat Bun has been the only work I've ever made that I don't like totally hate. So I'm gonna take that as a good sign. And I'm gonna lean into it. Dan, with Final Fantasy VII getting Rebirth treatment, which Final Fantasy do you want to see Rebirth next? Well, it depends what you mean by Rebirth treatment. If you mean remaking a classic with HD modern stuff and voice acting and beautiful reimaginings of the artwork, I would love to see Final Fantasy VI. I think it's Amano's best design work, possibly of his whole career. I think it's got one of the best soundtracks of any game ever made. I think it's got some of the best characters, one of the best stories, definitely the best villain in terms of like iconic. I would love that. The boring answer, the true to my heart answer, is I've been dying to see them remake Final Fantasy 1 because it was the first one I ever played when I was a kid, and it was like on the regular Nintendo, it was an open world game, which now is like the trend, but back then it was like just a map, and it didn't tell you where to go, and it just let you explore and find things organically, and as a kid it felt fucking huge. It felt really, really huge in a way that other games weren't, and man, that game has such a special place for me. I would love to see them reimagine it from the ground up and just do just a huge, beautiful Amano-inspired world you can run around in. But if you mean the Rebirth treatment in terms of like Arbiter of Fate, Whisper Ghosts from the future are going to rewrite the timeline and we're going to do Kingdom Hearts bullshit, then I'd never want them to do that again. It's such a shame because I just beat Rebirth last week, and 90% of it, 95% of it was flawless. It was like I couldn't believe what I was looking at. It was so true to the original and captured the spirit of how you felt playing it when you were younger. And it was just like shocking how good it was. And then the 5% that was the Kingdom Hearts bullshit was so unnecessary. Like there's barely enough of it there for it to matter, so it feels very easily removable. Like it feels like they know they fucked up in the first one, but they had to keep it there because they already introduced it. So they dial it way the fuck back. But if they had just remade the original FF7 and not included the multiverse shit, I think it would have been an all-timer. I think it would have been one of the greatest things they've ever created because it's so close to perfect. The stuff they change in the game, like making bosses cooler, making dungeons more expansive, all that stuff's incredible. All the fleshed out stuff like making areas more expansive and adding more NPCs, all that shit's great. Just, you don't need a multiverse in that story. You just don't. And it doesn't fit, and it's jarring, and it's cringy. And yeah, I don't know. I hope they just do a solid... It sounds like they're going to do 9 next. That's the rumor. They're going to remake 9. I hope it's just a straight remake. New combat, more expansive characters and locations, reimagined soundtrack, all good stuff. They crushed that in 7 Rebirth. But don't introduce a multiverse. Just don't do it. You don't need it. The original was already good. The original was so good that you're making it again by popular demand. So why change it? You know? In 20 years, no one's going to be asking them to remake Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. They're going to be asking them to just remake the original Final Fantasy VII. I do draw on a tablet. Yes. Yeah, it would be very cool. Especially after I've never played 14, the MMO, but I've seen a lot of it. And they take a lot of Amano's artwork and make it 3D and animated in that game. And like the idea of playing a 6 remake with like Magitech armor walking around and like crazy machines and stuff, like that would be so cool. It would look like amazing. But the rumor is they're doing 9 next. I say rumor, but I think it's pretty much all but confirmed that 9 and Chrono Trigger are the next 2 remakes. Which is such a fucking shame, because Akira Toriyama just died. And him living to see a fully HD, like Dragon Quest XI style remake of Chrono Trigger would have been... That would have been pretty cool for him to see that happen. It's a huge bummer. Hey, Johnny. But yeah, man, Final Fantasy 1. Would love to see it. I don't think it's ever going to happen. I'd want them to remake it the way it felt when you played the original, where nobody tells you where to go. It's just like, well, walk around, find really cool shit. Don't know if you're high enough level to be here yet. Have fun. I would love, 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 love to see that in a big, huge, modern, open, expansive game. I have not played the new Dragon's Dogma because I don't think it's out yet. I think it comes out, what, next week? On the 19th or 20th or something? Is there a demo? If there's a demo, I haven't played the demo. But I'm going to drink that game with a milkshake straw, to quote Tim Rogers. That game is something I've been waiting for 10 years. Because nobody does Western fantasy like Capcom. Nobody, nobody, nobody. That game is what I want so many things to be. In terms of gameplay, in terms of art direction, it's just Dragon's Dogma is a special, 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 special thing. And I really hope that this is... You know, Monster Hunter was super popular in Japan, like forever, and then it would never broke out in the West until World. I hope that's what this is for Dragon's Dogma. I hope after this it's like huge. I hope after this people are like, we need more Dragon's Dogma. Like there was an awesome MMO of it that was Japan only. But yeah. Yeah, Dragon's Dogma is like the Dungeons and Dragons game I always wanted. Like, the game itself, the original, it's fine. The world feels unfinished, because it is. But the DLC with the big dungeon, just a whole game of that. Just more dungeons. Like, it's so good. It's stupidly good. Painfully, wonderfully good. Final Fantasy V job system with customizable character skills on top of Monster Hunter combat. It's just the greatest mix. The greatest mix. Capcom is having a crazy couple years. I don't know what changed, but ever since they started doing the Resident Evil remakes and this new shit, they're killing it. It's so good to see. And their turnaround has been so fast. They like announce a game and it's out within like a year and a half. It's so great. I'm not going to copy paste all of this, but I am going to copy paste part of it because I don't want to do the measurements again. Sega's doing good. They get to stick the landing on that new initiative of theirs, which I have high hopes for with the remakes. Like, we're going to remake all the classics. We're going to do a new Shinobi, a new Golden Axe, a new Streets of Rage. Like, if they can stick the landing on that, it's going to be like a golden era. But, I don't know. Sega's always like one step forward, two steps back. I don't know why, but I really hope, really, really, really hope that this new direction is good, because they have so many good IPs that so many people would love to work on that they do nothing with. Yeah, if anybody has any stuff they want to talk about, by the way, throw it in the chat. Happy to discuss. Whatever. Surprised the Dragon's Dogma 2 doesn't have co-op. Yeah, a bit weird. Maybe they'll introduce it later. Co-op in that game would be crazy. Talk a bit about Kickstarters. What would you like to talk about regarding Kickstarters? Give me a subject. Happy to discuss. If I had to guess why Dragon's Dogma 2 doesn't have co-op, if I had to guess, it's that some of the stuff you can do when you're higher level is like so over the top. Having multiple people do it might be difficult. That's my guess. Like when you're like causing glacial landslides and tornadoes to come out of the sky and shit. Like you'd have to rebalance it like crazy because some of the later level spells and things, I think it would just be like chaos if two people had control of the kind of stuff you can do. Yeah, they need to rebalance it completely, I think. But it would be cool if they could figure it out. Monster Hunter works for co-op because it's like you swing your weapon or shoot your weapon, and that's about it. You don't have a team of 4 pawns that you program to do things, and you're not making meteors fall out of the sky or causing earthquakes or like it's, you know. But that might just be cope. Maybe they could do it. Maybe it's real easy. I don't know. That's just my guess. It's my guess as to why they did not. I'm starting to look like Alan Moore. Yeah. The guy who cuts my hair retired. He had an injury in his shoulder. So I gotta find a new barber. My hair hasn't been this long in quite a long time. And I'm not super happy about it. I don't really like the way it looks. It looks kind of homeless right now. But hopefully I can find a new barber who I trust to do a half-decent job. Maybe they could do co-op zones, maybe, as like a DLC, like co-op dungeons that are like balanced and designed specifically for multiple people. I could see them potentially doing something like that, but yeah. The game design is not for multiple people. Yeah, the Beholder is definitely... I mean, I will say, hopefully the Pawn AI... I don't think it's hopefully, I think it's for sure. I think the AI on the pawns is going to be much better this time around. It's been a decade. You know, I'm sure they're going to have better pawn systems and programmable stuff. Yeah. But I will also say, not to be a contrarian, going into a dungeon and having all your party members get wiped out by a Beholder is the authentic Dungeons & Dragons experience. So, That's what I'm talking about with like remaking the first Final Fantasy. It's like you go into the ice cave and you get wiped by people turning you into stone by touching you so many times, and it felt like old school D&D. And it's like, yeah, it's annoying, but they probably wanted it to be. They probably honestly wanted it to be. Yeah, it's definitely not for everybody though. One of my favorite things about Dragon's Dogma is that at nighttime it's just blackout. You just can't see fucking anything. It's great. Regarding Kickstarters, do you think a project without many followers on Instagram can be successful, or do you think it is necessary to pay advertising for Kickstarter video game? Let's see. If you don't have a ton of following, you definitely need to do something. I mean, you could become like a promoted project, like a project we love on Kickstarter, and get more eyes on you that way. Paid promotion, me and Dave haven't tried it, but I've heard mixed things. It's not the worst idea. I would say if you really don't have any following, then paid promotion can definitely help. The best thing I think you can do, me and Dave did a lot of this, but it didn't always work out, is reach out to podcasts and YouTube shows of people that like the kind of thing you're doing, and see if you can get like a preview interview or them to talk about it, or send them a build of the game, or like that kind of advertising seems to be more effective, because number one, it helps you network. Number two, it's an audience share thing where their people are already bought into the kind of thing you're doing, so they're more likely to buy it. Yeah, I would say the best thing you can do is network and get people to have word of mouth. But yeah, we haven't done a ton of paid advertising, so to give you any advice on that would be me talking out of my ass. But it's not the worst idea. It's worked on me. I've seen paid advertising pop up on Instagram for Kickstarters that I have backed. So as a person who has engaged in it, on the buyer side, I know it works. So yeah, just make sure. Well, I don't know how the taxes work. I don't know if you're in the US or not. But depending how your tax codes work, save all of your advertising expenses, because those are all write-offs against your profits, at least in the US. If you gross $100,000 and you paid $20,000 on advertising, you only grossed 80, kind of thing. But yeah, you get taxed on the 80, not the 100. It's a much better deal. That's also why, not super related, but that's why $1 billion Marvel movie can still be considered a flop, even if it brings in $1 billion. Because if they spent $500 million on advertising worldwide and they spent $300 million making the movie, it only grossed $200 million. So it's like, yeah. That's why, like, it's weird that Hasbro considers the Dungeons and Dragons movie being a flop, because I think it made like 650 or 700 million. But then like the budget of the movie was a couple hundred million, and then the advertising I think was like 300 million. So yeah, it's just weird. with numbers that big, considering, you know, the money it made, it just seems like it would be a hit right out the gate. But, you know, everybody wants to be a Marvel movie now, so if your movie doesn't make $1 billion, it's like back to the drawing board. Any Dune Part 2 comments? I haven't seen it yet. My brother saw it, and my brother's read all the Dune books. He's a huge fan of Dune. And he said that it's... his exact words were, it's our generation's Lord of the Rings. And I was like, I'm pretty sure Lord of the Rings was our generation's Lord of the Rings, but hey, whatever, man. But yeah, he loved it. He said it was one of the best movies he's ever seen. He said top 3, if not the best. So I was like, okay, well, that's coming from a huge fan of the books. So I've never read the books. I couldn't get into them. I tried a couple times. There was too much, I don't know what to call it, politicking. Too much like, too much prose about like what's going on in the background without getting me involved in it as a reader. Yeah, I don't know. Like Lord of the Rings, there's like a spectrum for fantasy. Like Lord of the Rings has no politics until you get to like Denethor, maybe. That's a stretch though. And then Game of Thrones has a lot of politics, but they do it in a way where you, the reader, are involved with all the characters by the time the politics happens. So you like have stakes and you're invested. Dune had a lot of like, it had a lot of like, here's 10 pages on how this house operates, and here's the code for trading spice, and here's the history of this house, and all the answers, here's why this is this, and it just explained a lot without bringing me as a reader into the explanation. It was just like, it felt like doing homework, like understand all this shit, and then we'll get to the story. And yeah, I don't know. Obviously, it's a classic. It's done. I appreciate the book for what it is. It just was hard for me to read it. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see it in a visual format. And that being said, I'm not just shitting on Dune. There's lots of classics that are hard to read. Like, Lord of the Rings was the first books I ever read when I was a kid. When I was in 3rd grade, I read The Hobbit. Then I read Lord of the Rings in 4th grade. And I never want to read The Two Towers again for as long as I live. It's just... Fellowship's good. Return of the King's slow but good. Two Towers. I don't need to read 80 pages of people tracking and looking at footprints and dirt. It's like, it's a classic. I love it. Did amazing things for fantasy as a genre, but my God. Silmarillion 2, yeah. It's funny. The Hobbit's like the perfect book. It's like, the pacing is perfect. It's just great. But yeah, there's lots of classics that are classics for valid reasons, but are not necessarily things I ever want to read again. I wouldn't say the Silmarillion is a classic. I'd say that it's supplemental material for a classic. Lord of the Rings is classic. Silmarillion is just like, if you liked that, there's more of it, kinda. How's the Steve Litchman project going? I was never able to get either of the 2 comics. I don't know if it's difficult for them to reach Spain. Ever since COVID, shipping's been a fucking nightmare worldwide. So to get them to Spain, it would probably cost $100 just for the shipping. I just sent some books to England last week for somebody who I believe didn't fill out their survey when the Kickstarter was live, so they never got them. And I was like, yeah, no problem, I'll send them. I didn't realize that shipping the 2 books to London was $96. Crazy. It used to be 35. I sent a lot of books to England back after we did the Kickstarter. It is wild how fucking expensive it is to ship international right now. I don't know what the fuck happened after COVID, but good lord. It's getting to the point where, well, not getting to the point, it is at the point where if people reach out and they're like, hey, I never got my Kickstarter reward 6 years ago because I forgot to fill out my survey, can you send it? If you're international, we just have to give you a refund because it's actually cheaper than buying the books to just give a refund at this point because the shipping is so ludicrous. But that being said, if you want to pay the $100 shipping, I will send them to Spain, and I will get tracking and all that, and I will send them to you. Third book is probably going to get kickstarted, I would guess, in the fall, like the first two. It's pretty much ready to go, other than we got to do the art, but that's never the hard part. The writing's the hard part. Yeah. Barring some crazy work development happening for me or Dave between then, I'm assuming it's going to come out in the fall. But, yeah. Oh, posture check? Here, let me sit. Let me sit way the fuck up. Let me sit way up. Throw my face up here. I'm sitting with my spine upright. No, I'm hunching. I'm hunching like a goblin. Because my vision is dog shit. And I gotta move way in close to the screen. Yeah, this is a t-shirt design for, well, it's a t-shirt and a poster for Meat Bun. But it's also a dry run for a 4-piece series I'm gonna do starting in the summer, which are gonna have the same composition as this with different stuff. I've also been like killing myself at the gym lately, so I'm like very tired. I come back and I paint, but like my brain is not. I'm not at 100%, I'll put it that way. I've been doing 3 hours of laps in the pool every day, which is a lot. Yeah, the problem is when I go to the pool at night, because I mostly swim, it's when they do all the like swimming lessons for the high schoolers and shit, so there's not really any lanes open. It's unfortunately something that's easier to do earlier in the day before school gets out. But yeah, nighttime, maybe in the summer, it'll be more available because everybody will be swimming outside. But we'll see. It's going good though. I've lost I've lost 55 pounds since November. So I don't know what that is per month. I have no clue. But yeah, I'm gonna keep going on my fucking death diet. Yeah, I'm gonna continue these streams, I think. Unless my client's like, hey, we don't want you to show work anymore. In which case I'll maybe switch to studies or something instead. Yeah, 55's a lot. I went real hard in the beginning and then I hit a plateau after 3 months, and I'm just kind of fighting the plateau now. I think my body was like, you're losing too much weight too fast, so it's just kind of holding on to shit now. I'm eating like 2,000 calories a day, 2,500 at the most, and I'm swimming 3 hours 4 times a week. So I'm on a huge deficit, borderline starvation, but it's all chicken and rice. It's all protein mostly. But yeah. If you follow me on Instagram, you're aware that I cook a lot for functions and for friends' parties and things. The hardest part is cooking the food and not being able to eat it to like taste test and shit. Because I cook for lots of people fairly regularly, and yeah, been trying to dial that down and not do so many social things. I do not have the same personal trainer from years ago. I wish I did. Unfortunately, shout out to Andrew. He had, I don't know if people in chat are familiar, but CTE's head trauma, it's cumulative. So the more you get hit, the worse it gets over time. It builds up. And he already had a lot of trauma from the war he was in, but it wasn't enough to make it so he couldn't function. But he saw a girl getting hit at the bar and stepped in to fight her boyfriend who was hitting her. And the guy turned around and hit him in the head with a beer bottle. And that hit in the head with a beer bottle was the straw that broke the camel's back with his CTE. And he's no longer able to do any like hardcore training or working out or anything because his brain trauma is just at a point where he'll collapse. So he's okay otherwise. The recovery was a while, but he's doing okay. But unfortunately, his days of training are over. I believe it's called a CTE. It's the same injury that football players get that are in the news all the time, the head trauma. Cranial trauma something, I think is probably what it stands for. I have no clue. But yeah. I'm not like a gym expert. I don't know a ton of shit. I'm probably not eating enough calories to do weight training. I'd probably have to up my diet if I wanted to get back into doing the shit we used to do. Like farmer carries and sled pulls and all the, crazy shit he used to have me do. I don't think I could do that on a 2,000 calorie diet. But maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'll introduce that into the routine. It's tough finding good information on dieting. It's weird. It's like people say the meme of like calories in, calories out, but that's not true. Because then it's like, well, it's calories in, calories out, plus your sleep quality, plus you have to eat enough to not go into starvation mode, plus you might need a cheat day to break up your metabolism to prevent it from shutting off, plus it's just like, then you get into macros and, well, it's calories in, calories out, but a certain percentage has to be protein, and it's like, okay, so calories in, calories out is bullshit. It's what kinds of calories, then the amounts of calories, then the what are you doing with the calories, then the how is your body burning the calories with sleep quality and shit like that. It's like it's a huge web of shit. I wish it was as simple as math of just, you know, eat 500 calories a day for a year and lose all your weight. Like, I wish it was that simple. That'd be so easy. It's not, unfortunately. Yeah, it's okay on the PDF. It's right now I'm just trying to hit my macros because I was on like a 2-month plateau. I was only eating 2,000 calories a day and I still wasn't losing anything. So now I'm trying to just eat mostly protein and see if that helps. It seems to be helping, but I'm not going to know for sure until I get under a certain threshold because I'm also drinking a gallon of water a day. And depending how much salt is in your diet, that can make your weight fluctuate like 20 pounds. So... yeah, I'm trying to hit the protein. It's tough though because, for example, I'm shooting for 2,000 to 2,500 a day. I usually only get to 21 at the most, and I'm eating mostly chicken or steak. 2,000 calories of chicken is like 4 pounds of chicken. It's like just a ton. Like, I'm eating a pound of chicken and a cup of rice for every meal, and it's so much chicken. Like, I'm not hungry. That's the weirdest thing. I'm just not hungry because I'm eating so much protein, but minimum 3 pounds of chicken a day, which is, I'm not used to this. And it's not fatty chicken, it's ground chicken breast. 98% fat free. It's been hilarious, but you know. Lost a shitload of weight right up front, and then my body was like, whoa, 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 whoa. Nemanja, maybe I'll have you on sometime to talk to me about this knowledge you have on stream. I don't even know how protein gets turned into a carb. That sounds like black magic. Is that a Final Fantasy term? Glucogenesis? I'm pretty sure that's what made Sephiroth, isn't it? Didn't Hojo use glucogenesis to put Genova cells into him? Jesus Christ, what is that word? That's a thing? Fuck. I'd love to come out of the gym and have the guy be like, "So, you're not losing weight, hmm? It must be the glucogenesis." And push the glasses up his nose. Ah, yes, I see. Some dumb Final Fantasy scientist. Neon Genesis Gluco, yeah. Neon Regimen Glucogenesis. Just me plateauing like crazy. Screaming about losing weight. So what's your recommendation, Nemanja? So right now, 4 times a week I'm swimming 3 hours. Every day I'm eating 2,000 to 2,500 calories, primarily 3 pounds of chicken a day, white rice, and some vegetable or sauce for the chicken. That's about where I'm at. The only snacks I have are protein bars from Costco and occasionally an apple. Sometimes I have steak, rarely. But yeah, what would you tell me to do for a week or two to see if I can get some results? Is it mostly diet or mostly exercise? My recommendation would be a full diet break because you said the diet's been going for 3 months. Okay, so what would the new, what should I eat instead? "14 days of what? What would the, I can't, like, I'm not gonna go to the Chinese buffet for 14 days. Like, what am I, tell me what to eat for 14 days. I haven't been lifting weights because I don't think I have enough calories to do that. I've been swimming 3 hours a day, which is resistance and cardio, but yeah, no weights right now. I used to lift weights, but not on this diet because I didn't think 2,000 calories was enough. But I absolutely can lift some weights if you're recommending it. To the rest of chat, apologies that I'm just talking about boring diet and exercise shit. But listen, man, I lost 55 pounds in like a couple months, okay? I want to keep the ball rolling. Okay. Okay. So protein, the daily recommended amount of protein, and then as many carbs as you can get away with before your calorie limit. I don't really know what my calorie limit is, but... Okay. 150 grams of carbs. Take a look at my fitness tracker actually and see what I ate yesterday for carbs. Let's take a look. Okay. I ate about 150. 145. I don't know if I should go by the MyFitnessPal numbers, but the daily recommended is 137 grams of protein, according to MyFitnessPal. But MyFitnessPal's been wrong about a couple things. So I don't know if that's necessarily the case. But MyFitnessPal says 137 for protein. Yeah, you say that, Son Goku, but it's not actually true. I'm on a 4,000 calorie deficit daily, and I'm on a plateau. 3 hours of swimming burns more food than I eat in 2 days. So it's not calories in, calories out at this point. It's something to do with my macros or my sleep quality or something else. So I understand for most normal people it would be that simple, but there's something weird going on. For the first 3 months of the diet, I was doing calories in, calories out, and I burnt 55 pounds in like 3 months, and then it stopped completely. I didn't change anything about what I was doing, so... Hey, Shays. Okay. Nemanja, if you want to shoot me a message on Instagram, I'll go look for it after this and we can talk more about it. I appreciate the help. I've been plateauing a couple months now. About two months. I lost a shitload right up front, and then it just stopped. So, according to MyFitnessPal, an hour of swimming burns about 1,000 calories. Actually, I can check it right now. Let's see. Cardio, swimming, freestyle, 2 hours. 2 hours of swimming on MyFitnessPal for my weight is 2,700 calories. So yeah, that's where it's at. That's just what it says on MyFitnessPal. I have no clue if it's true. That's what it says. So, but I'm not eating the calories that I burn. I'm eating the same amount regardless of how much exercise I do. So it's not that. It's not like I'm burning 4,000 in the pool and then eating 4,000. That would be fucking ludicrous. This piece is probably, well, it's going to be licensed, so it'll be a little less than what I normally charge. It's going to be a couple thousand. And then I'll sell some prints of it and probably make a couple more thousand off the back end. Yeah, I don't take breaks, though. So the thing is, the reason why I chose swimming, again, TMI, I'm a very big guy, and I've been very big for a long time, so my legs are used to carrying a lot of weight. So when I get in the pool, it's like being weightless. It's like it's like Goku training on the planet with like higher gravity and then coming back to Earth and being like Superman. So I can swim without breaks for a very long time because I'm not carrying my weight. So I don't take breaks when I swim, only to drink water occasionally. But I don't get out of the pool. I just have a bottle of water right there. And yeah, it's nonstop, same tempo. It's just kick laps the whole time. And I go for 3 hours, 4 times a week. I have a nice pair of underwater headphones. I throw on a podcast. I zone out. And I swim. And then I go to Qdoba, and I get a chicken and rice bowl, double protein, and I log those 500 calories, and then I cry, and then I go to bed. That's a good point. I should drink the pool water. Think smarter, not harder. Drink pool water so you don't have to stop. Listen, buddy, we don't pee in the pool around here. We hold it. We hold that shit. We pee in the shower like a man. Just kidding. Maybe not. Maybe that part was true. At what kcal number did I start my diet? As in what I was eating? It's been 25 the whole time. $2,500. I mean, listen, Monster Hunter weapons, I'm old school. It's the great sword, baby. I'm boring, I know. I'm vanilla. Something about that berserk power fantasy, though. Something about it. It's iconic for a reason. The problem is I don't know if I can go much lower than 2,000, 2,500 and not like die. I don't know. That's not much for someone my size. Not doing as much as I'm doing. Yeah, I don't know if I could get... I don't know if I could function on 1,500 doing what I'm doing. I could try. I don't know. If I stopped exercising, I probably could. But I don't want to stop exercising. Oh, okay. I see. I see what you're saying. That was my misunderstanding. I apologize. Yeah, shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'd love to give you a call or something and talk it over in depth. Try what you're saying for a couple weeks and see if it gets me any results, because I don't plan on stopping, but it is disheartening to work really hard at something and not see any results for, like, weeks at a time. So it would be nice if things could turn around. Yeah, I've done intermittent fasting. I think technically I'm doing it right now, but I'm not trying to. I'm just like stopping eating at a certain time every night and starting every day out of habit. And I think it's a 16/8, but it's not like I wasn't setting out to do that. It just kind of happened naturally. I haven't done any of the extreme ones, like the 48 whatever, like don't eat for 2 days and then do this. Like, wouldn't be opposed to it if it has results, but I've never tried it. Yeah, I mean, either way, I lost about 60 pounds in under 6 months. Even though half of that, well, a third of that was a plateau, it's still a good net result. 60 pounds in 6 months is dope, even though I lost the 60 in 4 months and froze solid for 2. But it's still a good net result, so it's, I'm saying I lost 55 right now, but I have no idea how much less than that it actually is. It's probably closer to 60, but my water weight fluctuates like crazy because I drink a gallon to a gallon and a half of water a day. So at any given time when I weigh myself, I could be like 15 pounds lighter based on how much water I'm retaining. So yeah, it's hard to say. My brother said his eyesight got better on keto, which I believe because it probably reduced his inflammation. That's my guess. Or blood flow. It's weird. Makes sense to me. I don't know why, because I'm not a scientist, but my brother said great. I mean, I did the most extreme diet I ever did was I did no carb for I did no carb for 2 years, adult like zero carb, and I lost 120 pounds, and then I transitioned onto a calorie diet with macros, and I gained all of it back, and I was like, well, well, I guess that's one of those diets that has to become a lifestyle. You can't really segue out of it. My brother's had really good results with it, but it's not for me because I love cooking, and it's just I don't think I could live a life where I'm not allowed to have like even like rice. It's just not something I think is long term for me. I wasn't smart about it because I didn't know anything about the right way to do things back then. I ate mostly chicken, steak, vegetables. I would make a lot of my own homemade like hack versions of things. Like if I wanted fried chicken, I would smash up pork rinds and Parmesan cheese and fry chicken in that instead of breading. And like, yeah, it was, I don't know. It was a lot of weight loss really fast, but it just wasn't, it didn't feel healthy and it didn't feel sustainable for me long term. I will say the dumbest thing I ever did, since I'm sharing my fuck ups, when I had a personal trainer, he told me to cut salt for more accurate weigh-ins. And when he said cut salt, I thought he meant cut salt, like don't eat any salt. So I did that. I cut salt out of my diet 100%. And then I started getting sick every morning and throwing up all the time. And then during one of our workouts, I collapsed. And he was like, what the hell's going on? And like, it turns out I had no electrolytes in my body. I was completely fucking dehydrated. And he was like, no, I meant reduce salt, not cut salt. And I was like, well, you said cut salt. I thought you meant like cut it. No, that was unfortunately a massive, massive mistake on my part. Oh, it's the best song in the game. This soundtrack is from Undertale. You can find the 5-year symphonic suite on YouTube. The canvas is 15,000 pixels tall at 450 dpi. Bye, Rafa. Yeah, I should be streaming most days for a little bit. My target weight right now is 325. I'm 5'11", 6'1" on my tiptoes. I will up the protein. Shay says, I want to do a comic, and at the moment, what do you think will work better? A romantic comedy type comic or a post-apocalypse one? Do a rom-com in the post-apocalypse. Rom-coms aren't super original, and post-apocalypse isn't original, but a rom-com in the post-apocalypse, now you're getting somewhere original. I would do that. Instead of Fallout, do Fall In. Love. Lean into it. Do something real weird. Is the title of the comic important? A really good title. Like, yes, it is. A good title is important, for sure. Like, think about, like, One Punch Man or something. Like, there's certain titles you hear and you're like, oh, I want to watch that. Or, oh, I want to read that. Like, we could have come up with a better name than Steve Lichman. Like, one of the best names is that we've worked on is like Skull and Shark. It's a skull and it's a shark. It's just like immediate. There it is. Starvale. It just feels good to say it. Yeah, me and Dave spent a lot of time working on stuff. Just fun names to say, fun words. Our Steve books could have had a better name for sure. Yeah, but I would say for your comic, you want a name that people are going to go, oh, it's that thing. Nothing else is that. It's that thing. Just make a list of cool words that are like close to the topic you're working on and start combining them. And looking for ways to make like portmanteaus and things, and just find something that's original, that feels unique to you. Like me and Dave used to do, back in the old Crimson Dagger streams, we would do fake IP challenges where we'd come up with things that don't exist, but we'd try to make a cool name for them and pretend they were like a real product and make everybody do art for it. So like Tex-Mex, like Texas Rangers mechs, like robot sheriffs and things, or Guerrilla Guardians or Crystal Crusaders. Just start thinking of fun things to say. Just things that sound, if you can picture what it is in your head, it's probably pretty good. Or if it makes you ask a question. If it's a name where you're like, ooh, like what is that? That can be cool too if you go like the intriguing route. But yeah, your name definitely does matter with an IP for sure. Like look at the famous example of the Wii U. Like nobody knew it was a new console, so nobody bought it because Nintendo, it felt like a peripheral. It didn't stand out as like this is our new thing. It was just Wii U. Is it the Wii? That thing that came out 8 years ago? Is it something else? Like, yeah. Names matter, for sure. I always get really mad when I see people that used a name first. because then no one else can really get away with it. Where it's like Jake Wyatt, his comic Necropolis, like awesome concept, awesome word, so mad that that's off the table. It's such a great word and title for a thing. But yeah. Captain Coconuts. But also, don't let not having a name hold you up from starting. Just start it. You might think of a name along the way. Don't wait for don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Just start, have fun with it. You'll find a name if you don't have one already. It'll come to you. You'll figure it out. Yeah, don't say it. There's no reason to share it. Keep it to yourself. Come up with a logo and trademark it. That way, if anybody else does it in the meantime, you can go, yo, here's a cease and desist. Good example, my brother is opening a barcade in a couple months that I was helping him design. And he wanted to call it Playcade. And he was really excited about it. And then he got a cease and desist from somebody that owned the name Playcade. And it's like, damn, okay. And now he's looking at other options. But, yeah. Do what you can to secure yourself. Publish something with the title, so you have proof that you published something. Get a, trademark. Yeah. I haven't seen Shogun only because I want all the episodes to be out. I've wanted to see it since the first trailer dropped, and I've heard amazing things. And the reviews are like 96% on Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic for Shogun. I want to see it desperately, but it's one of those things I'm going to want to watch in one sitting. I want to just take a day after I finish some work and I have some free time, sit down, watch the whole thing front to back. I don't like weekly TV show things. I like to just one and done it. I'm the same way with video games. I like to just beat it as fast as possible. Like FF7 Rebirth came out last week and I'm already done with it. I did everything in it. I'm just like, okay, I'm going to take off 5 days. I'm just going to crush this. And then I don't have to think about it. And yeah, I'm the same way with TV shows. Yeah, the Elden Ring DLC is going to be a good time. That's going to be a fun time. The best thing about a FromSoft DLC release is the community coming back. Like, there's going to be so many people online. It's going to be great. I haven't seen that movie, no. I don't watch a ton of movies. If it's good enough, I'll probably hear about something and watch it, though. Daniel Warren Johnston. I get confused for him all the time. Shout out to you, Daniel Warren Johnson. Just call yourself Daniel Johnson and make my life easier, please. But I love you. My favorite was doing a huge job for a corporate company I can't talk about. And at the end of it, they were like, we love what you did. Thank you so much. It's an honor to work with you. We've been following you for so long. And I'm like, this is weird. They're like, your comics were... Like, I thought they were talking about, like, Steve and stuff. And I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah. And, like, I mentioned Dave and how I usually work as a team on comic stuff. And they didn't know what I was talking about. And then I was like, wait a minute. They think I'm Daniel Warren Johnson. And I was like, oh no, I already did the work and they already paid me and they have no fucking clue. They hired the wrong guy. Very funny. They paid me a shitload. And I was very surprised. It was a very fast turnaround, though. It was like, you have a weekend to do this, and it's for like a huge corporate thing, and like, yeah. But they definitely thought I was Daniel Warren Johnson. Oh, well, thank you, Shies. I've never contacted him. I don't know him. I've heard he's a nice dude. I don't know him though. People in the chat who watched the original Avatar cartoon, I never watched it. Is it worth watching as an adult, or will it be too cringy? And side note, is the Avatar Netflix like insufferably bad, or is it worth watching? 2 questions. Worth watching the cartoon? Okay. Was my favorite anime as a kid? Vampire Hunter D and Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust are my 2 favorite. If Ghibli films count, or Ghibli films count as anime, the first one I ever saw was Princess Mononoke at 3 in the morning on the Sci-Fi Channel. It was incredible. I loved it. But yeah, I would say Vampire Hunter D and Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust are my 2 favorite anime of all time. Easily. Oh, it got dark. Hold on. I didn't realize how dark it got. I've been working for a while. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back, chat. Hi, chat. Had to turn the stained glass on for the full effect. Lean to one side. Get out of the way here. I love this. It took so fucking long to install. Oh. Took forever. Hey, thanks, Henry. Oh no, you're talking about Yoshiaki. Yes, 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 yes. Beautiful style. Oh. The Escaflowne movie is fucking rad. That's another one that was on Sci-Fi Channel a lot. I'd say after Vampire Hunter D, my favorite anime is Record of Lodoss War, or Lodoss War. Super weird niche anime that Madhouse did the animation for. I don't know how something like that even gets made. It's just such a weird, cool thing. Again, Japanese creators interpreting Western fantasy is just kind of my favorite thing. It's so much cooler through their lens. Yeah, Record of Lodoss War is fucking great. Dave actually got me one of the cells from it, and Vampire Hunter D, for Christmas a few years back. So I own a part of both of them now, which is pretty fucking cool. Everybody knows this song, Namaja. Everybody. It's the most famous song from Undertale. Nika? Can do. Is it Nemanja? Am I saying it wrong? Anyway, Nika. Listen, I'm terrible at names, okay? Doesn't mean I don't love you. This is the song where you fight the little smiling skeleton guy, Sans. The meme that is more popular than the whole game. My apologies, Nika. Or Nika. Oh my goodness. Is it like Veronica or is it like Nika? I am so sorry for getting your name wrong. Nicholas? Okay, cool. Wait. Nika, are you from Russia? Wait, are you from Russia? I need to know. I must know. Oh my god, really? I have something. Hold on. Oh my god. Oh, you're from Serbia? My bad. Well, anyway. I got this out of an old mansion. It's a Russian icon. It's a real one. It's one of my favorite things I have in my collection. It's one of my favorite art styles. But you're not Russian, so I don't know why I'm showing this. Whoops. Goodness gracious. No, I don't want to hear commercials. I don't care what makes a trip unforgettable. My goodness. It's an Orthodox icon, which gets associated with Russia, but maybe it has Greek origins. I'm not sure. One of my favorite illustrators of all time, named Ivan Bilibin. He was a Russian Art Nouveau illustrator who does not get enough credit. Yeah, Bilibin's work is like so good. It's tough to listen to this and not hear the voiceover from the trailer, where the old lady's like, 1,000 years ago, the King Ganon ruled over the family of Hyrule. I mean, technically, the original cell shading guys would probably be the Japanese print artists, like the Hokusais, stuff like that. Which project did we almost get made into a movie? It was a TV show, and it was Steve Lichman. We got it bought by a studio and a network. We had Oscar-winning talent attached to it, and we had award-winning actors. And yeah, we got real close to having it made, and due to the writer's strike and some other stuff with COVID, it didn't happen. Maybe it will someday, but yeah. For now, nope. Biggest disappointment of my life, bar none. I don't know. Me and Dave never moved to Hollywood. We did it mostly remote. I can't really say. I can say that writing pays better than art, in general. But yeah. Essentially, what happened is during COVID, because nobody could record stuff on location because of restrictions. All the streaming services bought tons of animated projects because they could be made remotely, and then they oversaturated the market with animation, specifically animation for adult humor, and about 90% of the stuff that came out bombed because it either wasn't good enough, or there was too much competition, or lockdown ended and people weren't watching as much stuff by the time it was all finished. So our thing ended up in that pile of stuff. And if that hadn't been the case, it probably would have been made, considering the level of talent that was attached to it. And whether or not it gets picked back up to be made after this bubble, because right now we're in a bubble that just crashed, where tons of stuff got canceled. Disney had massive layoffs and cut tons of shows and canceled a ton of movies. And like, it's all directly related to the COVID bubble bursting. So once this regulates, there's a chance that it might have a future somewhere. But it's, for now it's dead. Nobody's touching adult animation anywhere right now. It's like, yeah. Adult Swim would have been a place that would have been a good fit, but after the Rick and Morty kerfuffle, yeah, they're also wary. But it's a whole thing. It's unfortunate. Did they tell me anything about diversity in my IP? At the very beginning of the writing process, they were like, you guys have no female characters in your Steve books. And I was like, yeah, we actually remedied that in our third book, but it's not out yet. We have a female character because we realized after we finished book 2, we were like, I gave the copy to one of my female friends who's an artist, and she was like, I love your book and your characters, but there are no women in this book at all. And I was like, yeah, that's valid. And the funny thing is, there's tons of really funny female monsters that we could joke about. So it was sort of just like a weird blind spot for us because all the characters in the book are based off friends we had growing up, and we're kind of making fun of ourselves. We didn't have a ton of female friends just because we were small town losers and girls didn't really hang out with us. So that was initially why, and it wasn't like an intentional decision. It was just by coincidence we didn't have any female characters in the main cast. But in the third book, there is one. And in the show, there was one who we had introduced towards the end of book 2 in a cutaway shot, who is one of my favorite characters now because there are so many funny female monster things to joke about in fantasy tropes. But yeah, that was the only diversity and inclusion thing they mentioned to us. Was just like, hey, do you have any females at all? We were like, yeah, we do. There is a Medusa, but the joke of the Medusa character was that it's a Mandusa. So there's a Medusa, but it's a stoner guy with long hair. Yeah. The only girl in the first Steve book is Dracula's human girlfriend named Brittany, who's based on a real person we grew up with, who's now a goth model. Yeah. It's so funny that she's a model now. It's very, very funny. The main thing that people didn't understand wasn't the diversity and inclusion stuff. It was why are there rednecks from America in this? Like, why are we cutting to a trailer park where guys are like drinking beer outside and like Dracula's carriage rides up? And I'm like, that's the heart and soul of this thing. Like, if you can't combine the mundane human stuff with the monster stuff, this whole IP falls apart. Like, you have to have the small town dumb people with the monsters. You have to. You just have to. Like, that's so much of me and Dave's childhood is like our uncles doing like taekwondo in the backyard while we try to play Final Fantasy games. Like that mixture of like I'm trying to save the world from a meteor inside while my uncle's out back hitting a tree with a katana is like, oof. It's such a specific feeling. Or like being in the middle of a D&D campaign at like 2 a.m. when you're 10 years old and your uncle comes out of his bedroom after fucking some lady he picked up at the Chinese restaurant and he's just wearing whitey tighties and he opens the fridge and fucking pounds a beer in front of you. Like, having that interrupt you fighting like Lord Strahd and Ravenloft is so fucking funny. Like, yeah, that has to be there. He did drop the F-bomb. He did. He looked at us playing D&D. I was 9 years old, and he said the F-bomb to us. And then he went back in his room and kept having sex with that lady he picked up from the Chinese buffet bar. Yeah, we would have done voice acting for it. It was in a contract, I think. We did all the voice acting for the audiobooks, and honestly, some of it's like pretty funny in my opinion. So yeah, I think me and Dave would have been the two redneck guys at the very least, if not some other characters. But we wanted to be our characters are Ricky and Dale. Dave would have been Ricky, and I would have been Dale. Yeah, who knows? Maybe someday. The main reason I'm surprised it didn't happen was the actor, the comedian that was attached to be in it, was very, very popular. So, I don't know. We do have the rights to the IP, yeah. They sat on them for a few years, but we have them now. So if we wanted to resell it, we could. We're just waiting for the animation bubble to burst, because right now nobody's buying animation. I don't know if the show never gets made, we'll probably never be able to drop the names, just out of respect. I don't know if the people involved want their name attached to a canceled project, because that has a negative stigma. So even though they were like super helpful and productive with the whole process, unless they explicitly talk about it on their own, I would not disrespect them by bringing it up publicly. What would have worked better crowdfunded, Starvale or Steve? Steve, because comedy always travels faster and farther. Like, Starvale's a cooler art style, but it has a smaller audience. Comedy always has a bigger audience because you don't need to be a nerd to understand comedy. It's just, it's funny or it isn't. Steve has a, you know, bigger barrier to entry because it's Dungeons and Dragons themed comedy. but it's still yeah, it's still easier to sell comedy than sci-fi. Is the superhero genre passe at the moment? No, but it is going into a I don't know what to call it. It's going into a meta phase. It's straight superhero stuff like the early Marvel films is becoming a bit passe because they're so repetitive and the market's so saturated. So what they're doing now is meta commentary on superhero genre. So stuff like The Boys is very popular. Stuff like Invincible. The whole DC EU being rebooted by James Gunn is going to basically be one giant meta commentary on the genre because James Gunn essentially deconstructs things and does things slightly differently than most people. He's going to be, coming at it from a different way than they did the first attempt at the DCEU. And then, of course, Deadpool 3 is going to be a giant meta commentary on multiverses and, So, yeah, superhero stuff is still popular, but it's popular in a different way because it's so saturated that you have to talk about the thing in order to do the thing in a way that works. You have to kind of acknowledge the elephant in the room that it's, like, completely ridiculous at this point in order to get away with it. Which I think The Boys does best of all. Loki did a pretty good job the second season. The Deadpool movie is probably going to do a pretty good job with it. But The Boys, I think, is the best version of making an anti-version of the thing you're making while still staying in the tropes of the genre. It's very much a superhero show, but it's an anti-superhero show. It doesn't work unless the market is completely saturated with superhero stuff, because you have to know the tropes in order to get the humor. But yeah. It's just genres with it. It's self-aware subgenres. It's like, okay, superheroes are popular, but the movies are played out and they're not making a ton of money anymore. They're getting diminishing returns. So instead of making a straight superhero movie where it's just, the hero's journey, guy in a suit, you do a commentary on the superhero genre. You do an anti-thing like The Boys, or you do making fun of it like Deadpool. Like you gotta add something else to it. It can't just be here's a superhero. Now that being said, I think the only thing that will still work as a very direct superhero thing will be when they eventually redo the X-Men. I think the X-Men are probably popular enough that they can just do some, standard superhero stories with them, and it'll probably get people to go back to theaters because people have been waiting so long for Marvel to do that. Sort of like how the only profitable thing at Marvel right now is the Spider-Man stuff because the character is more popular than the franchise. Like, Spider-Man alone is as popular as the whole Avengers team. So it's like, yeah. I think the popularity for superheroes will come back whenever the X-Men get used. And, James Gunn's cinematic universe at DC is probably going to be pretty good. He doesn't really make bad stuff. Everything he does is basically a hit. I did not see Dune 2 yet. I plan on seeing it, but I have not seen it yet. X-Men is... The time is right for X-Men because it's been long enough since the Fox stuff that it's time to reboot it. The Marvel stuff is getting old. Like, there's Marvel fatigue, so a new team with new faces we haven't seen is needed. And in terms of, even though people are like, they rally against like the id pull stuff in movies, the X-Men are 100% an identity-based superhero team. It's about marginalized people that are treated as second-class citizens. And it's like the whole narrative of the X-Men and Magneto and the Brotherhood of Mutants and the government and like all of that stuff is extremely relevant to audiences at the moment. So I think when those movies do come out, they're going to be pretty big. That's my guess. Because there's always 3 plots in every X-Men story. There's the X-Men versus the villains, and there's the X-Men versus society, which is the government hating them, people being bigoted towards them, blah, blah, blah. Those are always the 3 elements, and any good X-Men story has all 3. So... yeah. It can't be too on the nose, or it's going to be cringe. They got to keep it subtle. I don't know if you could do what they did in X2 nowadays, where the X-Men literally break into the White House and they're like, "We're watching you, Mr. President. Do the right thing." Like, I don't know if you could do that and not have it be cringe. Somehow that movie made it work, but that was like, right after 9/11. So... telling the president to watch his back was like a popular thing at the time. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what they do. I hope it's good. I hope there's sentinels. I hope there's big chunky robots flying around chasing them. I hope they lean into all the cool stuff that the old ones did not lean into because they were embarrassed to be a comic book movie, or the CG wasn't able to do it convincingly, whatever the excuse was. I hope they lean into all that shit. I didn't watch the Halo show, and I don't want to because I saw the trailer where he takes off his helmet and he looks like a guy that goes to a bar in my town. He just looks like a normal dude with a goatee. And he goes, "Hey, Cortana, do me a favor." And she goes, "Yeah, Chief." And he goes, "Shut your mouth. Shut up. Stop nagging me, Mom." Like, that's just the energy it had. It had 13-year-old, "Don't tell me what to do, Mom" energy. Like, Master Chief might as well have a hat on so he could turn it backwards. Like, I don't know. It just... Oof. If he got on a skateboard and fucking kick flipped out of the scene in that trailer, it would have made sense with that energy. Looks like a dude going to a fucking Godsmack concert who doesn't want to fucking do his chores. I don't know. Hated it. Put him in a Gears of War show. Like, he looks like one of those guys. I don't know. Also, I mean, I never played past Halo 3, but just never show his face. Like, just never show Master Chief's face. Like, do they ever show his face in the games? Isn't he supposed to be the archetype of, like, the faceless hero? Like, it's much... Like, do the Mandalorian thing. Go further than the Mandalorian. Just never show his face. Like, the worst thing the Mandalorian did was show Pedro Pascal. They never should have. That one moment with fucking Baby Yoda, Grogu, was cool at the end of Season 2, I guess, if you have to. But yeah, just stop. Master Chief is much cooler as a suit of armor. And way less cool as a guy. Oh, I need new music. I need new music. Oh my god. Some Final Fantasy X cringe. Let's do it. What section do I want to do next? Man. Later, Artie. Good seeing you. Have a good night. Bye, Artie. How long does it take me to make a painting? It depends on the painting, but way too long is the answer. If it's one of these, where it's like hyper detail, then way too long. If it's a single character thing, like the Hollow Knight thing I did, it's, I don't know, a couple days. Something like this is like weeks. The problem is I'm usually working on 2 or 3 things at a time, so if they all take a lot of patience and detail, they all take forever. So right now I've got 4 things on that I'm working on, but I'm trying to finish this one before I get any further on the other ones, because this one is very close to done. And even though it's going to take some serious work to get it done, having it finished will clear up a lot of like mental hard drive in my head to focus on the other pieces. I'm extremely bad at multitasking. It stresses me out. I'm like, if something is not done, I want it to be done. And if I'm working on multiple things, it just compiles and compiles. So it's, yeah, I don't know. Trying to be better about finish thing A before you dive into thing B. Because, yeah, I've gotten to a place before where I'm working on like over 10 things at once, and I'm working on all of them every day, but it looks like nothing is getting done because I'm getting so little deep work into them that there's no like huge results. No noticeable gains, if you know what I mean. So I'm trying very hard to use streaming as a way to force myself to focus on one piece at a time right now. Can you talk a little about your process? How do you wrap your head around an image this complex? How do you know when an area is done? Well, I have to look at it at print size. So I know that if this prints, it's going to be roughly 24 by 36, probably on a poster, smaller for a t-shirt. So I got to get to this. It's hard to say because you're not seeing me in person, how big this is on my screen. I got to look at it at the size it's going to print at, and I got to see if it looks noticeably finished or if any areas look empty. So the most detailed area is going to be this when I'm done. I did enough to mark up what's going to be in the face for now. The threshold for the detail is these scales over here and this eye, but that's going to be the last thing I do. So everything else has to be done before I get to that. Yeah, the further away from the face you get, the less intense accuracy you have to have. Like, all the detail I'm doing over here in the stones and stuff is just enough to make it look like from a distance. It's like, okay, I didn't do every shingle. I just implied that there's shingles in the roof. I didn't do every brick. I just implied some mortar and some scum on the bricks to make them look lived in, blah, blah, blah. Like, I can get away with that over here. It's the edge. It's smaller. But when I get in here, it's going to be like very, very detailed. But that being said, this is the last time I'm doing this because there's a smarter way to do my kind of work. And it's in Clip Studio Paint with texture brushes that do the work for me. And I'm learning Clip on the side with another piece I haven't shown yet. Unfortunately, these Elden Ring pieces I'm doing have to match because they're a set. So I have to do them in the style I started them in, which is Photoshop with a hard round brush, manually detailing. If I make these last two look different than the first two, the set's going to look weird. It's going to make me want to claw my eyeballs out. But after this, I'm probably never doing this again. I'm probably only doing Clip Studio. If you send me a message on Instagram, Chase, I can give you my thoughts on your comic name. Feel free to reach out. Basically, an area is done in my stuff when I can look at it at print size and it doesn't look like anything is undone. Like, if nothing's jumping out noticeably, like, hey, finish this. If nothing's like obviously unfinished, then I consider it done. Like, I will say on the previous 2 Elden Ring pieces I put out for Meatbun that are hyper detailed, I do consider those unfinished to me. To the client and to the audience, they look 100% done. But if I go back and release prints of them, there's a couple spots that I did not get to patch up the way I wanted to. So I will probably fix those up if I ever do prints. Just little things that no one's ever going to notice but me. But it's one of those things where my eye immediately goes to it. So I have to do it if I'm going to release it. Sometimes you just run out of time and the client needs a thing. So you just gotta, how do I get this done as fast as possible? Do I think an ink and color style can work in the gaming industry? Who can you look up? I mean, if I'm going to be honest, From Software, I think all their concept art is done either very messily digitally or traditionally very loosely. It's incredible art. They prioritize ideas over execution for sure. It's not the most hyper realistic, hyper rendered stuff, but that stuff is great. I would start there. I forget who the artist was that did Fallout and oh god, Elder Scrolls. He was a traditional artist. He did everything with pencil, watercolor, ink, and acrylic, mostly pencil drawings. But yeah, you can definitely build a portfolio with traditional stuff. It's absolutely doable. When you get hired somewhere, they might ask you to work digitally just so they have a file they can give to a team that's, you know, editable. But yeah. I do have the rights to the Meat Bun Works for everything except t-shirts. Meat Bun has the right to do the t-shirts with them in perpetuity. I can sell prints of them and do other stuff. But yeah. Meat Bun's looking to expand into doing more print stuff, so we're using these as like a test run. I'm very good friends with the people there, and they're awesome. They've been super great employers, and I love working for them. So I trust them more than I would with some other clientele. But yeah, I do have the rights to do releases of these as prints. They have the rights to do everything with apparel. Yeah, one thing you could do is do the drawings traditional and then throw them into like Clip or something and do like a quick wash. You don't have to do like hyper rendered stuff to make it look done. But yeah, you could do hybrid stuff, draw traditional, color digital, or even do your first basic color. You know, one of my favorite artists is John Foster and James Jean. They both do, you know, traditional, then they scan it, do digital, then they print it out, paint on it, do more traditional, then scan it again, do more digital. Very hybrid process. Whatever gets you the result in the work that you enjoy. No problem, Nika. Yeah, Adam did die young. My Instagram, I think, is Dan Warren Art. Pretty sure. Dan Warren Art is the name. There you go. Thank you. What's a good hopping point for a good retro and a more current Final Fantasy game? If you want to play a retro Final Fantasy game that isn't too old, I would say Final Fantasy VI is probably the best jumping on point. If you want to play one of the more modern ones, I would say ideally you should play 7 before you play 7 Rebirth and Remake, just because so much of it is referential. But Rebirth and Remake are pretty good. I would play the original 7 first, if I'm, but that's a game from 1997, so it's kind of dated in a lot of regards. Yeah. I enjoyed 16. A lot of people didn't. I would say 16 is a pretty good place to start, but it's more of an action game. Yeah. I think 6 is the best retro one to play, probably. If you're into really retro games, play the original. It's incredibly hard and very cool, interesting gem of a game. Yeah. Six is not giga old. Final Fantasy 1 is giga old. Final Fantasy 1 was the 80s. Final Fantasy 1 is like 8-bit, classic Nintendo. 6 at least has like some pretty, up-to-date Super Nintendo graphics and stuff. Like, the problem is it's hard for me to recommend a lot of the new Final Fantasies because I didn't really enjoy them. 13 wasn't great. It didn't showcase the series super well. 14's an MMO, so unless you have 400 hours, it's hard to recommend it. 15 is really, really cringy. A lot of people liked it. I don't know. I thought it was very cringy. 16 was pretty good, but it's an action game, so it's not really showcasing the series super well because it's not really an RPG. I don't know. Tactics is really good. You could play the remake of Tactics, War of the Lions. That has a new translation and stuff's up to date. That game is really good. It's a strategy game, though. 9 is really good if you want to play a PlayStation game. If you're going to play any of the 3 PlayStation ones, I would say play 9. It's got the best translation, and it's the most representative of the series. Actually, yeah, just play 9. Play 9. 9's the way to go. Play 6 or 9. 10's a good game, but you have to be okay with the voice acting. If you don't vibe with the voice acting, 10 is very hard to get through. And as much as I love 10, listening to Titus go, and then I knew my father was never coming back. Like, it just, after a while, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's a lot. I mean, the dividing line for me is the games that have airships and the games that don't. So 1 through 9, you have an airship, you can fly it around on a world map and control it. Those games are one type of Final Fantasy. 10 through 16, you don't have an airship because the cost of making a world map is in HD is too expensive, so they stopped doing world maps and just did fast travel. So there's no airships, you can't fly them around. That exploration element is gone. I consider all those their own category. So 1 through 9 and 10 through 16 are basically separate camps. Airships and no airships. It is interesting if you read like the development diaries from when they were making 13. They very openly admit that they're like, yeah, we can't make the kind of scope we used to because the cost of creating assets in HD that look good is too expensive. We can't do world maps and we can't do big expansive towns. We can't do any of that shit. It was easy to do when it was pixels or when it was low poly models because we could pump those things out relatively quick. But to make realistic looking assets in HD, they basically were just very frank and they were like, if we did this, it would bankrupt us. But yeah. FF6 is cool because of spoiler reasons I can't talk about. But the story has a cool, unique thing that none of the other ones have in the second half. Supposedly they're remaking 9. It's gonna be pretty fucking good if they do. Unironically, Dragon Quest XI is great if you like the Akira Toriyama art style. Let's see. Oh, Warcraft 3. I still don't know how they botched that remake. That was shocking. Yeah, Bjorn's great. The Warcraft 3 remake had a lot of problems. Not just with gameplay bugs, there was like script stuff they changed and weird, just a lot of changes. Just a very weird thing to fuck up. I didn't play it. I just, I read all the stuff when it came out. And I was like, well, guess I'm not diving into that. Warcraft 1 remake, that'd be great. That would be very cool. Let's see. I gotta fix this. Yeah, I gotta fix this. I guess Final Fantasy XII is pretty good if you just don't use Vaughn. I mean, you can't fly an airship around. It's one of those that is like a streamlined MMO kind of thing, but story-wise and world-wise, it's pretty good. You just gotta not use Vaughn. It's weird because 12 was... It's like the definition of art by committee. If anyone doesn't know, the creator's intent for 12 was that you were going to play as a middle-aged guy who was a soldier, who was a prisoner named Bosch. And he was falsely imprisoned, and, you know, he had a whole backstory. Really, really cool, dynamic character, central to the plot. Everyone thinks he's a traitor, blah, blah, blah. He has to clear his name. And then they built the whole game, and the higher-ups, after the Square Enix merger, because Final Fantasy, the movie, The Spirits Within, bombed so badly, they were terrified of losing more money. So they were like, we don't think people want to play as a middle-aged guy. You have to add like a kind of asexual, twinky, young dude who's feminine and masculine and mass appeal. It's like, we want girls to think he's hot and pretty, and we want guys to be able to identify him as like masculine. And it just became this very art by committee character design of this character called Vaughn, who has no real story. He just got kind of dropped in the final, you know, stretch of making the game, because the higher ups were like, we have to have a new identifiable main character that will have mass appeal, that people will think is cool and sexy and, you know, gender a-specific. And it basically kills the whole game. Like, it's really, really weird, because they introduce this character, and they're like, he must have a backstory, and there isn't one. They very quickly are like, oh, his brother something, and then that's really it. And it's really, really obvious that the game isn't, like, done, because that character has, like, no reason to be there. And it's real easy when you're playing it to be like, if they just removed this character, this would have been like one of the best stories they've ever told. But yeah, it's just probably the most obvious example of like art by committee getting in the way of something. And that character, just as a character design, is like, it doesn't fit anything else in the game, the style, and it's very like one size like please everybody. It's very weird. They're like, make it all the past main characters. Like they chose a blonde haircut to make him more like Cloud from FF7, but they gave him the hairstyle of Squall from FF8. But they made him a thief to be like Zidane from FF9. It's very, very weird. It's like the most committee decision making ever, and the result was something really, really forgettable, which makes the game feel unfinished. But other than that, if you ignore that and you focus on the other characters in the bigger story, it's a pretty great game otherwise. But yeah. Which is funny because right after that, Hironobu Sakaguchi, the guy who did all the Final Fantasies up to that point, quit and started his own studio. And the first game he made was a Final Fantasy in everything but name about a middle-aged man who was actually immortal, called Lost Odyssey, and it's a wonderful game. But yeah. Let's see. Oh, man. I'm probably going to get off of here pretty soon, guys. It's been 3 hours. If anyone has anything they'd like to talk about or questions or anything, feel free. But relatively quickly, I will be getting off of here. No, these aren't a full working day. I put in 4 hours before this started, and I'll probably switch over to my other piece and do another 3 before I go to bed. So, yeah. Definitely not a full working day. Only because there's some stuff I'm working on I can't actually share. So, I did some of that earlier. I'm going to do some more of that before I go to bed. But this piece I have permission to share. I'll try to be on again tomorrow. hopefully earlier. I started at like 5:30 today because I couldn't. If anyone knows, let me know. YouTube streaming has this weird thing where sometimes there's a chat and sometimes it doesn't let me have a chat. And it seems like it's a function of making it an all ages stream or a restricted stream. I'm not sure why that would affect having a chat, but it's weird. I had to do it like 7 times today to get the chat to show up. I'm not sure why, so hopefully it doesn't take that long tomorrow. Yeah, today's probably an 11-hour day. Yeah, roughly. That's pretty... I don't know. Let's see, I usually sleep 8 hours. I typically work around a 12 or 13-hour day. Typically. I'm in Eastern time. I'm in EST. What I'm doing each day is different. Sometimes me and Dave write. Sometimes I'm doing writing stuff. Sometimes I'm doing all art. Sometimes I'm doing meetings and stuff. But on average, I'm doing something productive, work-related, for about 11 to 14-ish hours. Ish. I take breaks to go swimming, and I take breaks to, you know, breaks for swimming and breaks for food. I swim 4 times a week, and I meal prep, so my food's mostly ready to go. I don't have to travel much. There's not a lot of downtime in my day, because if I have too much downtime, I get bored as fuck. I'll be streaming more. What's my streaming schedule going to be? It's gonna hopefully be almost daily. I don't have times though. I'm not ready to commit to times yet. I try to avoid doing 100% mirrors. I do them occasionally, but I usually change them after I do it slightly because your eyes can tell when something is perfectly mirrored. Asymmetry is stronger in a piece typically than complete total symmetry, unless you're doing like an icon. So, like on the statues up top, they're symmetrical, and I flip them, but then I go in and I change little things. I'll like, you know, render the scales slightly differently or something just so they're not exactly the same. That's typically what I do, unless I'm totally out of time and my client's like, we need it right now, right now, right now. And then I'll start flipping, cutting and flipping, cutting and flipping and pasting. Yes, the problem with me streaming is that it means I get less done, but it also holds me more accountable. Like, it's a weird calculus because I'm not going on YouTube or I'm not like checking my phone as much when I'm on stream. Like, I'm gaining time in that regard, but I'm losing time in terms of looking at chat and using some brain space to like answer questions and stuff. I know there's text-to-speech like readers and stuff streamers use. I might look into getting one of those so it'll ask questions and I don't have to look over and read. Or I might, you know, I might do like a couple hours a day that are like office hours where I check chat, and the rest of the day I'll just work and not read chat. I haven't really decided what the best way to handle it is yet, but yeah, the problem with streaming is I typically get distracted. Like, it's good for rendering. Like, I can turn most of my brain off and get stuff done when I'm just rendering details like this. But if I was to start a new piece and have to figure out a composition and do like heavy creative work, I don't know if I could stream while I do that. I need more focus to do that. But stuff like this, I can talk while I do it, and it's not super bad. Do I procrastinate? Not typically, but I do take on too much stuff. If I have something to do with a deadline, I don't miss deadlines. Like if someone's like, we have to have this on this time, I always get it done. But I do take on way too much shit, and then I end up not getting enough stuff done. Like, way too much shit. But yeah. I guess it depends what your definition of procrastination is. In some regards, I guess you could call it that. I'm never doing nothing, but I definitely will, like, for example, here's my worst habit. This is a form of procrastination for sure. If I'm like 90% done with a piece and it's all I gotta do is knuckle down and finish it, the only thing my brain wants to do is start a new piece. Because starting new things is so much more fun than doing the hard details and finishing an old thing. And that's how you end up with hundreds of unfinished pieces. And I definitely had that issue for a very long time. And I'm fighting the urge right now. Like, I have ideas for other things I want to do. And right now I just want to close this painting and start those things. But it's not, it's not a good idea. So in terms of that, I would call that procrastination. It's avoiding the hard work of finishing a piece in lieu of the excitement of starting a new piece. But then you just end up with nothing finished. So, in terms of that, I would say absolutely. My favorite stuff doesn't happen to me often, but my favorite thing is when my client's like, emergency, we need this thing in like under a week. And it's like, cool. Because right off the bat, I know that it's not going to be perfect because there's not enough time for it to be perfect. So that OCD perfectionism brain goes right out the window. I don't have to worry about that anymore. It's already impossible, so I don't have to stress about it. It's just about getting it done and having it look as good as possible in the time you're given to get it done. But when people give me a project and they're like, yeah, finish it to your heart's content, and when you think it's done, it's done. That's how I end up doing paintings like this, where I'm going to keep working on it and working on it and working on it till I think it's done, and it's going to take way too long. But that's a me problem. That's not a client problem. But when I have to do pushes for, like last year, we did a big push for Square Enix for Final Fantasy XIV's Fan Fest. They were like, we have an emergency. We need all this stuff done in like a week. And I got a ton of shit done that week. And it was great because it was very freeing to know that, like, okay, in 7 days it's turned in and that's it. That's all you've got. It's not going to be perfect. No one's expecting it to be perfect. You can't expect it to be perfect either. It just has to be done and the client has to be happy. And those are a big relief. For FF14, I did a bunch of stuff. I did a couple shirts. I finished another artist's work because they overhired, basically, or underhired. I don't know how to phrase it. There was a bunch of work given to a bunch of people, and it couldn't all get done in time. So I came in and finished some work some other people had started, and then they couldn't get an artist to come back. Some of it's on my Instagram. They couldn't get an artist to come back who had done some line art of Monster Companions the year before. and they were like, because this artist can't come back, can you match their style and make it look like they did this year's? And that was fun. I used to do a lot of that when I was doing miniatures work for Kickstarters way back when I was starting out, where they'd hire like, you know, Karl Kapinski or Steph Kapinski to do like a handful of miniatures. And then, you know, they'd be like, we hired them to do like a style guide basically. Can you do 80 more miniatures and just rip off their style? Or sometimes they would even give me unfinished paintings by Karl, and they'd be like, can you finish it, make it look like Karl finished it? Those jobs were super fun. Yeah, those were interesting. So anytime a client asks me to finish someone else's work or pretend I'm somebody else, it's a weird familiarity. It's something I am used to doing. But yeah. One of the weirdest jobs I ever had, which came as a result of doing paint over education streams way back. Someone hired me to come on board for their project and just take other artists' stuff and just like fix things and just hand it back for them to finish after I put fixes on it. It was like a weird form of art directing. It was very strange. I was just getting paid to do paint overs for like a year. What do I think of Killian Eng? I love his stuff. Yeah, his stuff's great. I really wanted, I missed out on them. If I find them on sale, I'm going to buy them. I really wanted his Shadow of the Colossus and Last Guardian prints. Those were some of my favorite work of his he's ever done. Those were beautiful. There's very few like master line art people out there. Like Killian's up there, Aaron Horkey's up there. Yeah, beautiful stuff. No, I just typically render like this and then I add filters. Like, with the filters, it'll be closer to this when it's done. It's still not the highest of contrast, but yeah, it'll be closer to this when it's finished. I prefer to focus on rendering first and then figure out all that shit with filters. And then I typically go back in after I do the filters and I'll paint out any areas that need to be lightened or darkened with overlay layers set to white or black typically. How come I don't see cartoony game artists? Are they only animation industry instead? Maybe? I guess you'd have to look at cartoony games. Like, what's a good cartoony game? Like, who's the artist for Psychonauts? You know? I don't know. There's not a lot of cartoony games. I'm trying to think of cartoony games. I know there are some. I don't know why I'm not... Would Fortnite be cartoony? I guess it would be, right? The John Wick guy is going to do an adaptation of Battle Chasers? Oh, good luck. Jesus. Good luck with that. That would be so expensive. The budget to do Battle Chasers the right way? Holy shit. Like, even to do Judge Dredd, they had to reboot it, reduce it to one building, reduce the number of, like, fantastic elements just to make that work on a tight budget. And Judge Dredd is nowhere near the number of assets you would need to do Battle Chasers. Is it going to be live action? Or animated? Battle Chasers would work if you did it like Arcane. Like, that would look really good if you took like an Arcane art style and you did Battle Chasers. Live action would cost so much money. So much money. The problem is Battle Chasers clearly should be like an anime. It should be like a Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust anime. Traditionally drawn, high quality, but that would cost so much money that it would never get made. So they're going to have to do some kind of CG. So I'm going to guess they go the Arcane route. I would not be surprised if they adapted Vampire Survivors. I would not be surprised at all. What was the point in your arc where you felt like you improved the most, and what was it? It was probably when I was streaming 14 hours a day, doing 5 hours of study a day, and just like grinding the hell out of myself. Like, there was a stretch towards the end of that where I was working on a Transformers movie doing advertising. I was working for Pathfinder doing RPG assets. I was working for a third-party RPG company. I was working for 2 tabletop miniature companies on Kickstarter. Me and Dave were writing our first Steve book, and we were writing Skull and Shark, and that was all happening at once. I was juggling all, like, 7 of those things. And that was, like, a crazy time, and I got really good really fast, and I could notice the improvement and stuff, but, yeah. That was a crazy time. And then things kind of went crazy after that, and I didn't work as much, and I stagnated a lot. After the Steve book came out, fulfilling that Kickstarter was like a full-time job, and then we went right into the second Steve book, and then we fulfilled that, and then my mom got sick with cancer, and I took time off to take care of her, and yeah, things just kind of spiraled after that, and I didn't have a ton of time to work. I chose to focus on family and other stuff for a while, and fell off quite a bit. But yeah, right before that was probably the best stretch, though. It was also, if I'm being honest, it was also extremely unhealthy. I wasn't sleeping. I was like, it was bad. I was getting a ton of shit done, and I was working my ass off, and there was a lot of gains, but there was also huge sacrifices. But that's kind of standard. The more people you talk to that do this, there's periods in your career where you're going to have to do that kind of thing, and it's going to suck. But in retrospect, it didn't suck as bad as I thought it did in the moment, I'd love to go back to having that kind of productivity again. It only sucks in the moment. My studies were typically lighting studies and photorealism studies. I didn't do a ton of drawing. I should have done more of that. But it was typically putting like a model on my desk, like a little model head, setting a light up, rendering it. Yeah, it was a lot of that. It was a lot of film stills, trying to figure out composition by doing, film still replicas, and yeah. Yeah, that was a crazy time. Having 7 huge jobs at once was it was a lot. It felt good to be able to balance it, but yeah, it definitely was not something I would want to do for more than a couple of years at a time, because the stress is just like crazy, crazy, crazy. How's my mom now? She's good. She's in remission. I'm taking her up to the hospital next week for every 6 months. She has to get checked to make sure the cancer's not coming back. So, I'm taking her up next week. When she got sick, I asked her what I could do to make it easier on her, because she had stage 3 inoperable throat cancer. There wasn't a surgery they could do to fix it. So they had to do experimental surgery with a proton collider thing to shoot basically particle beams through her neck to erode the tumor, because if they cut into her neck with an actual surgical implement, she would have bled out and died. So it's a type of machine they use for brain tumors where they can't open up your head, and they were experimentally using it for throat cancer. And she went into the trial program for that. She signed all the waivers. It worked, thank goodness. But she said very early on, if I'm going to do this and I'm going to go through all the chemo, I just want to be able to sleep in my bed each night. I don't want to like live at the hospital. I think that'll kill me more than the procedures. So I was like, okay. So I lived in Rhode Island at the time. Every morning I got up at 5. I drove to Massachusetts. I picked her up. I got her to the hospital in Boston by 8. It was during COVID, so I could not go inside and be with her in the hospital. I had to sit in my car outside, and yeah, I worked on the TV show stuff a lot. I sat in my car for about 8 hours. Then when she was done, I would pick her up, drive her back home to Massachusetts, Cape Cod. Then I would drive back to Rhode Island, sleep for a few hours, get up at 5 again, do it all again. I did that for months. Rhode Island to Cape Cod to Boston to Cape Cod to Rhode Island, over and over and over and over. So that was a shitty time with COVID on top of that. Her having no immune system was very, very scary. But yeah, she's better now. She's in remission. I hope we have good news next week. Yeah. Yeah, so I I never stopped working, but I stopped being productive. I stopped really pushing because I chose to focus on other shit, which I guess I regret. I don't know. Like I wouldn't have not helped my mom. There isn't a universe where I would have chosen to do something else. Like I was always going to do that, but I did lose like a year. And I'm just trying to like it's weird when you lose your momentum. I'm sure people in the chat know that feeling. I'm just I'm trying to get some momentum back because I was going real strong for a while, and then it just completely fell apart. But that's why I also shout out, I love the team at Meat Bun, because while my mom was sick, I was working for them, and I was like, I can't get this piece done this month or next month or the month after that because I'm only home for like an hour each day. I'm living at the hospital. I don't have a mobile rig. I was like, you should just hire somebody else, just fire me, just like, sorry, like you guys are great, but I can't do this. And they were super supportive. They were like, no, we want you to do your thing. Take your time, focus on, get it done whenever you can get it done. We totally understand. It sucks. Like, they were super fucking supportive. So I've got their back in all future endeavors. Yeah, it's just weird. I'm very bad at multitasking. Like when I was fulfilling the Kickstarter, I had to fulfill the Kickstarter. Like I couldn't ship out 40 things and then go paint for a few hours and then ship out 40 things. I had to ship out all of the things and then I could paint. Like it's weird. I have to finish a thing or I cannot do the other thing. It's weird. That's why if sometimes my clients ask me to play a game, they're like, you know, most recently they were like, play Baldur's Gate because we want you to maybe do something for that. And it was like, okay, well that means I have to just beat Baldur's Gate. I have to just treat it like a job and just do it because I can't casually play games. It drives me fucking insane. I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's like an OCD thing. I have no idea. But I can't like play a game for an hour before bed and be like, cool, I'll pick this up tomorrow. Like I have to just get it done and remove it from my brain. Go, okay, I'm no longer thinking about this. It's done. Moving on. Like, it's weird. You're still good in the world. Oh, I know that was from Lord of the Rings. Trust me. I'm aware. I am aware that that is from Lord of the Rings. They're still good in this world. It's such a weight to carry. All right. Chattanooga. It's time for me to go. It's been 3.5 hours. I want to say thank you to all who came and asked questions. I'll be back tomorrow. Maybe tomorrow we'll do like a study, or maybe we'll work on this again. I don't know. I have no idea. But hey, we're here. We'll figure it out. It's all good. We'll get there. We'll get there in the end. Who knows? Chat. Maybe we'll do portfolio reviews. I have no idea. I'm just trying to wake up and get something done each day so when I go to bed, I don't stare at the ceiling and go, I didn't do enough shit today. That's all I'm trying to do. If I can lay down and go, I did everything I could do today, that's all I care about. That's all I want to do. That's all I'm focusing on. I just don't want to stare at the ceiling at night and go, I didn't get enough done today. That's all I'm trying to do. So I'll let you know how that goes tonight. And I'll see you all tomorrow. And I love you. And take care of yourselves.